Good morning. I'm coming to you from my deck again today, which is a little different because it's the first day of school. And I want to make sure my daughter gets off okay. So I'm sticking close to home to make sure if anybody has teenagers out there, they like to stay up late at night, and especially over summer. And we allow that in our house. But anyway, getting back on the schedule, she might be a little rough this week. Good thing it's a short week. Can you believe it's only August 10th and school? Seems like it starts earlier and earlier every year. But structure is good for the teens. There's one of my doggos. That's Chloe. So the dogs get to be with me today. So let me show you. There's Mallory. Hi, say hi. Good morning, Mallory. Rise and shine. She's going to get excited. Okay, so I actually got to read 2 chapters of Luke this morning. Chapters 9 and 10. We did 8 yesterday. And the thread or the concept that was coming through for me as a common thread through some of the stories is a concept of neutrality. And in God's kingdom, there's really no room for neutrality. There was also this thread of being for and against, and the disciples, and Jesus uses several opportunities to sort of show them how easy it is to get stuck in neutral or to get on the wrong side of love, because we are human and we tend to slip into our humanness. Imagine that, which is why kind of feeding on the word daily and staying connected and in prayer is so important. Otherwise, we're human. We live in the human world with other humans, and we just will get taken away by the current of humanness. So it takes actually a lot of strength and dedication and clarity. But that's when you decidedly believe in the way of love and God's love in Jesus and God, it actually can give you clarity and help you live without neutrality in the human world. It gives you clarity. And that for me, oh my gosh, I'm like, I need some of that. And I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of taste of that. I share on here fairly frequently that I use the Enneagram as a tool for myself to help me get out of neutral. Because as a 9, I'm like the Switzerland of the Enneagram. I love to live in neutral. Seems like peace to me. For and against can feel harsh. So I struggle with this one. This is my human struggle, or my human coping strategy, is to stay in neutral, not to have opinions, not to take sides, to see all sides and all perspectives, which has its good, benefits and can help other humans, but sometimes it's not so helpful for me. Anyway, so how is Jesus talking about that? And since I'm sitting here, I get to have my Bible with me. And we talked a little bit about this, I think, back in even Mark and Matthew, but Luke uses a similar story where the disciples have been sent out into the world. They've been given the power to heal and to cast out evil spirits, and they hear about some other people in the world that are using Jesus' name without the authority, and they come and kind of tattletale to Jesus, and he's like, don't worry, it's okay. Anybody who is not against us is for us, and by them using my name, they're demonstrating that they're forness, not against. And that's the opposite of human thinking, right? It's like, if you're not for me, you're against me. Jesus as usual, God as usual turns things upside down. Our, and that is what, when we can slow down in life and we also are oriented to a more beneficial way of living, which is from love, from godly love, we can get more clarity and we can actually see each other this way. And but of course, they have opportunities to learn this firsthand. And immediately on the tails of this story, they are on their way to Samaria, on their way to actually Jerusalem, but they are going to Samaria on their way. The Samaritans are like, y'all are on your way to Jerusalem. We don't like them, so y'all can just keep going. We don't want you here. And the disciples get angry and they're like, oh, Jesus, shouldn't we just like rain fire down on them? And he's looking at them like what? Don't you get it? Like, that is not what we're about. We can move on. We don't need to, we came to save people, not to destroy people. And they've already been given instructions as they're traveling and as they're spreading the good news to accept hospitality. If they get rejected into town, they just dust off their sandals and move on and leave them to their fate. They've been told this. They've been given this instruction, and yet they are immediately, their egos are like, wait a minute. And in God's name, they want to like smite a town. And he's like, no, that's not what we're doing here anymore. That's the human way. I'm trying to show you another way. So they move on. And then he's gathering up more and more followers and disciples. And so then he's in a situation where he's having conversations and he's asking someone to follow him. And he says, yes, I do want to follow you, but first, let me go do this. And Jesus right then just says, no. I think the first example was, I need to go home and bury my father. Sounds reasonable, right? Like, that's a pretty big deal. And Jesus says, nope, let the dead bury their dead. And in my translation, it actually adds another word in there to help the reader understand. It says, let the spiritually dead bury the dead. You're with me now. There's no neutral. Get out of because he knows that's what's going to happen. If you go home to bury dad, you're going to be in that neutral. You're going to get stuck in neutral. You're going to go right back to the human version of love versus what I'm trying to do here. And then there's also another example of, but I need to say goodbye to my family. But first, and he says, nope, that's not what we're doing here. Anyone who puts a hand to the plow and then looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. Now, we've got a couple of like literal examples here that probably, I think, really did happen. But of course, they're supposed to be metaphors for us. Are we literally supposed to leave our families? Maybe some people are, or not say goodbye to our families, but it's more of an internal attachment. Where do you find your identity? It's a question of identity and what you align with and where your source of decision making and clarity is, when we are stuck in our human roles and our human identities as a member of a family or son of or daughter of or wife of or all of those roles, that can get us really in a place of neutrality. I don't know, I am for this, but I'm also for this. You get stuck in the in-between. And boy, I feel like this is a big issue for me. So when I was reading some of these passages this morning, I was like, whoa, boy, did I need to hear this. Because I personally, this is like a lifelong struggle for me. and probably because of my wiring to be able to see all sides, to be that Switzerland type of person, um, that I need this, you know, clarity in my life, because I don't always have it on my own, and especially if I'm looking to other human relationship structures in the human world. I get stuck in neutral a lot. I feel like I'm constantly in limbo. I want this, but I also want this, and I want these people to be happy, and blah. It's exhausting. So anyway, Jesus, then we move on. So we get these examples of for and against, and kind of this neutral. And Jesus wants them to be a stake in the ground. Like, you are for me, and I need you to understand that. Like, drive a stake in the ground type of commitment. You've got to understand what you're committing to when you commit to being a follower of Jesus, of the way of God, of love. And that means not being satisfied or not seeking fulfillment in only our human experiences of love with other humans, to bring in godly love into those relationships, because that amplifies everything. But when we stay satisfied with a more neutral, watered down version of love in the human world, that gets us in all kinds of trouble. That's when our egos come out to play, and then our ego, like it, you know, you're in relationships with people, you know this. it, one day it's good, we're moody, we're fickle, it's all depends on how the wind's blowing, and are you making me happy? What did you do? Do you agree with me? What's your political view? What church do you go to? Like, even in the name of God, we find reasons to be against each other. I'm sure God is up there going, oh my God. Yeah, literally. They still don't get it. Yes, we struggle. This is why, and I'm struggling here too. So Jesus sends out the disciples, and then we are told that, okay, so Jesus gives a prayer of thanksgiving. This is really good in chapter 10. And he's with a teacher of the law, and he's talking about being childlike. And that which means children come, they know they don't know anything. They're excited about everything. They know that there's authorities over them. But there's just an excitement and an openness. We've talked about this before, the importance of being childlike. And children are not very egotistical. They're all for each other. They're like, yeah, you can go do it. Yeah. They cheer each other on. It's when we come into our adulthood that we lose all of that, and we start, attaching more and more to our ego, that a need for survival and safety in the human world, that causes us to attach to groups and ideas and ideologies, and then be against each other. And God's ways are higher. And one day he's in a religious expert stands up and asks Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And how do I inherit eternal life? And Jesus says, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? You must love God with all of your heart, all of your mind, all of your strength, all of your heart, and all of your mind. And then also love your neighbor as yourself. And then he tries to, he wants to justify his actions, and he goes, well, tell me what a neighbor is. And then we get the very famous very famous, well-known parable that most people in the world, whether you go to church or know Jesus or believe in God or not, have heard the story of the Good Samaritan. And then we're given this example of a Jewish man who is injured and laying on the side of the road. He's been attacked and he's been left for dead. And a priest comes along and just says, oh, you know, we're not told that he says anything, but he sees the man needs help, but he moves on. He doesn't help him. And then a temple worker or a Levite comes along. Same thing happens. Looks at him, moves on. And then it says a despised Samaritan, and of course, just a few paragraphs before this, we're told about those despicable Samaritans. But a Samaritan sees him and has compassion. He starts caring for his wounds, and then he gets off of his donkey, puts him on his own donkey, takes him to the next town, puts him in an inn, pays the innkeeper, and then says, please take care of him. I'll be back. If I owe you more, if this doesn't cover it, I will pay you more. He reassures the innkeeper, like, just take care of this man. I'm covering his expenses. And then he tells this story, and then he asks everybody, who's the neighbor here in this story? The man who shows mercy. Yes, go and do likewise. So we get a very clear example and definition of what it means to be a neighbor. And you love your neighbor as yourself. So it means we also take care of and love ourselves. And sometimes that gets lost in the Christian world, especially among women. And right as we wrap up chapter 7, we get a story of two women and how one woman gets it wrong. She forgets to take care of herself. She's so busy taking care of everybody else and all the details and making the meals and doing all the things. And her sister Mary is at Jesus's feet. Like, they're hosting Jesus in their home, these two sisters. This is the story. Forgot to kind of set that up. So there's the home of the two. They receive Jesus as their honored guest. Mary sitting at Jesus's feet. She's not worried. Like, she's focused on what she needs to be focused on, what she should be focused on. And she's not missing this opportunity. She's not caught up in that. And she's caring for herself by doing that. Like, she's like, I love myself and I've got Jesus in my house. I'm not missing this opportunity. And Martha is more concerned about all the hostessing and is not caring for herself, and therefore she's getting resentful of her sister Martha. Like, I'm in here doing all the work. And this is this happens to all humans, but as a woman, I see this really being rampant in our culture, and especially within the church world, or even worlds where culturally women and girls are raised to be good girls, which means you just pour yourself out and you don't take care of yourself. We're not told the importance of taking care of ourselves and sitting at the feet of Jesus and at the feet of love, like love itself. And it's very loving to do that. That is where we get filled up. And then we have the proper perspective and clarity and getting out of neutral. Or if you're on the wrong side of for and against, you can come from a position of love. Love is not neutral. And love doesn't get stuck. Love gives you clarity. This is why lately I have boiled down a lot of the different sort of cognitive behavior therapy out there of questioning and holding your thoughts captive, and working on your thought life to one simple question: what would love do here? That gets me right back into all the reading that I've done, all the learning, all the studying and getting to know God and spending time with Him, and gets me out of my humanness to step back, look at the bigger picture, and go, what would love do here? And sometimes love does look neutral from the human perspective, um, but even though it's not, but it allows me to be Switzerland when I need to be Switzerland, but it also allows me to move into conflict and have tough conversations when that's needed, or to put my ego aside and be compassionate. Well, all of it is putting the ego aside, because it's not about me, it's about love. It's about love coming into that situation and loving all of the people in it, me included. Um, and it brings the big picture in, it brings wisdom in. Like, for all, it's sort of one simple question when I can catch myself, which is hard to do as a human, because we react, the voice is so strong, the ego is so strong, it is hard to insert love into those moments. But with practice, and this is where a good prayer and meditation practice and a stillness and a mindful practice can help you grab those moments and allow you to take those thoughts captive and then interrogate them from a position of love, and then shift out of for, against, neutral, wherever you need to be. And if you're stuck in neutral, trying to be everything to everybody, or be nothing to anybody and everything and making them everything, that is a icky, muddy, like, that is not a good place to live perpetually, because that you feel it, like it's an energy that's inside, like, I need to go, I need to stay, I need to it's a stuckness. So if you're feeling stuck, because that energy needs to go somewhere, and it will go into various coping strategies. Trust me, I know. And as humans, we've all got things. Like, there's no shame in this game. We've got to have, but there are healthy ways to cope. We need ways to cope. But when we start turning to the unhealthy ways of coping, then it not only causes problems, it's not loving to ourselves, it's not loving to anybody. That's bringing the lies, deception, all of that into the equation, and letting that have power. And we want the power of love in our lives. And again, that agape love, not our not our self-centered version of love. All right, gotta keep an eye on the clock and make sure the girl is getting off to school. For all of you dealing with the first day of school, good luck. Go get them. Say lots of prayers over all those teachers, administrators, students out there for energy and safety. A lot of energy colliding at once, and coming off of summer hangovers and getting back into routines and all that good stuff. So, all right, go rise and shine and have a great day, and pray. If you're stuck in neutral like I am a lot of times, pray. Ask love in. Love is declarative. Love drives a stake in the ground. Love will get you out of neutral. All right, have a great day.